Hello, I'm Beverly Enos, and this is Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Quite often we're on during the week as well, and if you request a show to be repeated, they will do that for you. This is all part of the cable service here in Georgetown. If you would like to become part of this and run one of the cameras or borrow a camera to tape an event, or for all the nonprofits out there, if you'd like to do something so that people know what's going on with what you are giving back to the town, just let us know and we'll make it all happen. Now today we're going to be talking to Joan Tramer Lorente. And Joan has lived in town a long time ago.
That's right.
Now, where are you living now?
I'm living in Brunswick, Maine.
Oh, wow. That's way up there, isn't it?
Well, no, not so very far. Not so about 106 miles. I think I've checked that and found it to be true, yes.
You lived in Georgetown growing up?
We did, yes. I arrived in Georgetown in 1939 and started second grade here at the Georgetown School.
In this particular school, right here?
Right here.
Right where we're taping.
And continued through Pearly High School in the class of 1949.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so that gives me the age range. Now, in 1939, something happened that probably very, very few people even know about. In 1939, your family opened basically a wild animal farm.
That's right. That's right. It was called the Hickory Tree Wild Animal Farm, although I'm not sure that I've ever found the hickory tree there. But in Mr. Charles Phelan of Marblehead had the property. It was a racehorse stable,
Really?
Yes, and
Wow.
he had many horses there at one time. We didn't see all of them or any of them, but Pony Bill, which had been the horse to lead the horses to the gate, but none of the race horses were there at that time. And Charlie apparently decided he needed to have something there as well. He was a radio station owner of WESX in Salem, Massachusetts. I'm not sure if that's still existing or not. But somehow he met my father at Norumbega Park in Auburndale, where the Totem Pole Ballroom, the famous
I've heard of that one.
Totem Pole Ballroom, the dancing wonderful bands were there. And we had a little animal act there in the summertime. And somehow Charlie met my father, who is Gus, and I will call my parents Gus and Connie, because I guess my father used to call Connie Mama or something, and she thought she'd rather have her first name being used, so that's it.
So when he met your dad, you were already doing an act with animals?
Yes, we had animals. We had performing animals, supposedly 8 to 10 dogs, an aristocratic goat, or 4 aristocratic goats, a monkey, pony, mind-reading pony, of course, and sometimes doves performing on this. This was vaudeville, little vaudeville acts at theaters, you know, matinee performance, something special. Tramer's Animal Circus. Sometimes we were Tramer's Society Circus. I'm not sure how social. Well, we were pretty social, yes.
Now, even as a child, what did you do as part of the performance?
I usually watched the Dr. Kildare movies from the side screen, you know.
Okay.
But no, I suppose I helped a little bit, and they also left me for, you know, in care of an aunt or my grandparents in New Hampshire to perform, and they had come from an exposition in Canada, some of the fairs, and had appeared, and then came to Auburndale for 2 summers to do this at Norumbega Park. We're there at the 1938 hurricane, which was so bad. Some of much was destroyed at the farm. I'm sorry, at the park at that time. Yes.
So all of a sudden, you're now whisked up to Georgetown
and then here
to
we
live
come
there.
to Georgetown. I entered second grade here with a very sweet teacher, Miss Bagley, and then continued right along through school. We stayed put for a while, you see, and the farm was a wonderful incentive for everybody to be staying put. And the farm opened on April. Well, no, I read that we I reread some of my notes, and it opened in May because there was still frost in the ground in April, and some of our animals were more, perhaps, tropical.
So we're talking May of 1939.
That's right.
Now, did it open as somebody would pay admission and come into it like an entertainment park?
Yes, yes. However, we did have complimentary tickets for people who from Georgetown, of course, you know. So there was an open house day or open farm day that one day, and they performed some of the animals. Some of the Chambers Society circus animals performed at the back of the grounds. It's a 100-acre farm now owned by the Woodmans.
Right, now it's the Woodman Farm, which is off Jewett Street.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And people had to stand to watch the program.
So it's like going to an outdoor circus almost.
It was.
With the animals.
And then later, bleachers were put in the next year, so that we had seating for people, and we did have the top of a tent. We didn't have the side walls that I remember, but we had a tent, so it gave the aspect of being circus, really circus.
We've kind of skirted around the wild animal park, so we're not talking just dogs or a monkey. We're talking elephants.
You were
an
talking
elephant.
We had two at one time.
Lions.
Lions. I tell the children.
Tigers and bears.
I tell children that. I say, yes, lions and tigers and bears, yes, and monkeys, of course.
And you really had lions and tigers and bears?
Yes, we did. We did, and monkeys.
And monkeys, and the mind-reading pony.
And the mind-reading pony. Oh yes, Mickey the mind-reading pony was there also.
So what was his act? How did he read people's minds? This
I know me. It wasn't quite that way, but he would add, subtract, and even divide, multiply and even divide
with his hoof.
With his hoof. And of course, he was cued by my father, and my mother would have people write their numbers, magic number 1 to 10, so that it would be easy for Mickey to count. But they had a code, by which they could relay this. So Mickey, however, when Mickey became older, and he was almost 30, I believe, when he died, I'm afraid some of the prodding was a little more direct, but he would stop his count and at the right time, and is that correct? And oh yes, said the children, yes, and they were so pleased about this. He did do some mind reading about some other items too, but yes, he was cued. Now the goats did a 2x4 or a seesaw. They did seesaw. They use their horns to butt a basket and go down on their front legs, to waddle across the stage. They were quite attractive.
For some reason, Little Rascals just jumped into my mind. I can imagine little kids coming in here and just being so awed by these animals.
It was fun. They had what they called a 60-minute show, and if you appreciate it, please give them a hand, let them know, and they'll do far better, as with applause. So there had to be a good deal of applause to urge them onward. But the dogs, and we had some of the animals performing right there at the farm also. We still continued with our animal act there, along with some very kind of interesting personages who arrived to help us out.
So you were traveling with the act at the same time as the farm was open for people to come in as paying guests?
Yes, and in the winter, the animals had to go back to the theaters, to the matinees, the stage, to help feed the animals in the summertime or in the winter time, because of course the food wasn't so, or the people were not coming to see the farm. Perhaps after October and then into April, it was very quiet at the farm. Of course, we didn't have many people attending.
But you still had to take care of the elephants and the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my!
That's right. You had to feed them. That's right.
This is still. I'm picturing going down Jewett Street in 1939 with the style of automobiles and the styles of trucks.
Yes.
And obviously it was a paved road at that time.
Yes, it was,
Okay.
and they even improved some of the paving for the farm.
Really?
I did have some news on that they had done a little bit of extra paving, and then we did have the wide street in the farm with small stones,
So that the cars could get through,
yes,
and
they
people
could.
on bicycles
yes,
and
because
carts.
one was, I believe I think it was the mother of one of the, maybe it was either our governor or one of our senators, and asked if she could come through by automobile, and it was possible to do that.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Oh yes, we had some interesting people come through. Yes.
Now, at that time, what was the general mode of transportation for most people in Georgetown?
Automobile.
Okay,
That's it. And I don't think many people came by horseback.
But
No.
I can see the 1930 Model A Fords,
Yes.
which I've driven quite a bit. I can see those being actually on the road in those days.
The thing is, that, of course, the farm lasted only until the summer of 1942. So we had only 4 summers, really, which were active, and the gas rationing came because of World War II. So that people really had to be very careful, and that of course made our attendance very low. And probably had to
Something to do with the
encourage
whole-
us
yeah.
to reduce the.
You had some very
Animals.
special guests, some names that people should recognize.
Yes,
I
we
recognize 2 out of the 3 that
did? Oh,
you gave me.
that's
So what type of actors or acts would come and join you?
Well, some from WESX or WBZ, Georgia, the girl with the white guitar, came. We had many singers, folk singers, some clowns, and I think probably, let me see, I think more of the jugglers, yes, there were jugglers. There were some acrobatic acts. Yes, I don't think we had any really high wire acts, but also we were able to host Tom Mix.
That's one of the names
Yes,
I recognize.
you recognize that.
Yes, I don't know what he did, but I do recognize the name.
Well, he was actually a very fine, I think really a very good entertainer as well. He was expert in riflery and roping. So he put on his own performance. He brought a truck with his of course his famous horse and his people, and he put on 5 shows that day, which was amazing. He was there on a Saturday and then on a Sunday also, and it was so worrisome, such as a day which is rainy, such as today happens to be. Were we going to have the crowds? So we were thinking, the family was thinking, and the business was thinking of insuring this day with Lloyd's of London. However, the premium was going to be too expensive. After all, Betty Grable had her legs insured with Lloyd's of London. Why not? Our day for Tom Mix. But they didn't. But they all did a lot of praying or hoping that the weather was going to be good. It was. He put on some very spectacular shows. One was checking in a mirror and then putting his rifle there so that he could get the target, backwards. He had some amazing tricks. He really was a good showman. Yes. Then Hoot Gibson. Now you may not have recognized Hoot
No, that I didn't
Gibson,
recognize.
but I will just maybe go back a little bit. That Tom Mix's probably one of his last appearances in New England was at that time. He died in October of 1940, and I think he was on the way, or was toward the West Coast at that time, but it was one of his last anyway, if not the last New England appearance. Hoot Gibson was a handsome man whose pictures were just on the wane at that time, I think. So he spent the winter of 1940 to 41, and it was a harsh winter in Georgetown, but he stayed at what we called the Big House, which was Mr. Phelan's summer home. Well, I'll tell you about where we lived later, but he decided he could stay with us, and it was a bleak year. He went with the animals to the vaudeville, to the theaters, and his horse was with him too. And then, it was such a hard winter for everybody. But he did have a lovely Christmas card from Sally Rand, who was a fan dancer.
I remember the name Sally Rand.
Yes, and so that perked him up a little bit, made him happy. He had his card from Sally Rand. He lived in the big house. We lived in an apartment made over the horse van garage. When the horses left, so had the van. So they found that they could build a little apartment for us. Now the first year, no, not the very first year, but the second year, we lived there, and under us was the other tenant, and that was Jewel, the elephant. She moved in. I'm not sure if she moved in before we did or after, but she had a habit of pulling on the huge springs overhead, which would have lifted the door. Even in those days they had this type of mechanism, and she would just, it would be a loud bong, you know, and anyone visiting us would be jumpy, of course, and my mother would say, "Oh, that's just Jewel playing her harp."
Okay.
Well, when the second elephant arrived, they moved the two elephants to the end of the racehorse barn, which was a beautiful barn. It was a track, and the stalls were in the center. So when the horses exercised on the dirt floor, nine times around could make a mile. It was that long a barn, and unfortunately that burned at the Woodman's home after the Woodmans had it. Possibly, I'm not sure just the reason right now either, but a lot of hay was stored there, and
that would have gone up quickly.
It did. So then the monkeys moved in. The monkeys moved in under us, but that was not too bad, you know.
So the neighbors went from
yes,
elephants to monkeys.
To monkeys, that's right. That's what we did. We did, and the only thing is we had a macaw there one day, and some people were not staying any time in that barn underneath us where the monkeys were located. And my father went by and said, "Haven't you seen the monkeys?" And they said, "Well, yes, we wanted to, but somebody said to us, 'Get out of here, get out of here.'" That was the macaw instructing everybody to leave. So for that day, I guess they moved the macaw, you know, so it wouldn't be bothering, and the monkeys could be viewed as everyone wants to see monkeys anyway.
And to think this happened in Georgetown.
Oh, yes. But, you know, I'm thankful for the Historical Society. I don't know if that comes next or
yes,
how
that's
to
actually how I
explain
found out about
Is
you.
it?
Yeah.
Can't believe what they've done.
Said
yes.
that the Historical Society was going to be talking to you and that you might be willing to do the show. And, of course, I jumped at that because it's very different. I mean, she was talking about pictures of an elephant in downtown Georgetown and some of the photographs that you have and all the wonderful things that you have saved through all these years.
Well, I have, but I had no proof of that trip downtown with the elephant. I had no proof. I told that story and people always lifted eyebrows, you know, but it was the Georgetown Historical Society which provided us just yesterday with those pictures.
Oh, they were the ones with the pictures.
Yes.
Okay.
We never had them, and I thought, you know, as the years have been rolling on, people have been less
that's a couple of
excited
miles
about that.
out of town. That's a long trek to take an elephant for a walk.
About 3.
About 3, okay.
And it's terrible to say we weren't sure that we had missed the elephant that day, you know. The trainer could be lonely for the people working there. Some had automobiles, but I guess he thought he really needed some refreshment, and so he took the elephant. I believe that he rode the elephant down.
Well, that would make more sense. Yeah.
She happened to be the more lively of the two elephants, and I don't know how really risky this was, but he, I believe, rode her downtown, and we never had these pictures. We had heard descriptions, but some of the pictures are so amusing because some of the people are not at all fazed by an elephant, you know, with its head in Watson's restaurant, while her trainer was probably
Watson's was around for a long
yes,
time.
it was.
It was around when I was a kid here.
You were.
Yeah. Right. Now, Ken Maynard. Who was Ken Maynard?
Ken Maynard probably was one of the lesser of cowboys, and he had performed with Hoot Gibson many times in some of the westerns. And I haven't reviewed all these western movies to see him in action. You know, with a few of the actors, when they became talkies, they lost out. They perhaps didn't have the voice for this, but Ken Maynard was also very colorful when he arrived at the farm.
I can imagine. Now, what type of events would go on there? You said you had Georgetown people could come in for a free day.
Well, not all. I don't know that
Probably.
extended, but probably the beginning of each season they had a complimentary day. And the tickets were, I think, we had tax in those days, 12 cents, and I'm not sure if it's 40 cents for adults. You know, it was a little more reasonable. Well, according to the times, but even those times were hard. And we had, let's see, you would like to know
what type of things happen? I mean, living on a farm, things, all kinds of strange and funny things happen. But living on a wild animal farm has to be even more fun. You had an alligator there as well?
Oh, yes, that's the story. And that I did tell them that the alligator, they can, it was a small one, perhaps maybe about this big, I guess. And it had apparently died. You know, my father thought it had died, and it was, of course, cold weather, and they do go into a type, it's estivation, not hibernation, you know. And it revived when it was in the trunk of the car going home. This happened to be after just after all the other exciting events, and so that when he arrived home, he was going to take it and perhaps dispose or bury him or do something with him, but he had revived, so that as he was approaching the house, they grabbed him.
Opened
the trunk. Yeah, opened up the trunk before, and then had put it down. But when he opened it at home, the alligator was quite lively. Grabbed it by the tail, took it down. Took it down to a cage we did happen to have, put it in the basement. Not really an alligator terrarium or anything of that type, and that alligator often hissed at the gas man as he read the meter. The gas man had to be used to the alligator hissing at him. But that was exciting, certainly. And
this must have been great as a kid to have all these things happen.
It was a nice life. I really did. I didn't realize all the financial aspects or some of the other problems, but I did enjoy growing up. And then I guess
I'm trying to picture a little girl in school, 2nd or 3rd or 4th grade, because these were the years when you go into school and they have show and tell. Now, do you bring the tiger or do you bring the alligator? But even coming to school with the stories.
Yes. Well, I was able to have one birthday party where all the children could pile into a hayride, a small hayride, and my whole class. And then, of course, in Georgetown, that was smaller then, and we all went down. He pulled us all the 3 miles down to the farm to see and to be with the animals.
That must be one heck of a birthday party.
It was great. Yeah.
What was the story about the donkey fight with the tiger?
Oh, all right. Yes, we have. You see, we had our elephant was named Jewel, and presented. Mr. Phelan came, and we had quite a presentation with politically ambitious, people, men. For the most part, I think they were all happened to be all men that time. So the Democrats could not be, offended, and apparently a group of Democrats bought Eleanor. Now Eleanor was, we named her for Mrs. Roosevelt because she liked to travel. Although Eleanor didn't want to have anyone travel on her back, really.
So Eleanor was the donkey?
She was the donkey.
Okay.
And she, one Monday morning, very seldom did we have people visiting the farm on the Mondays and early Monday mornings, and a couple of the boys thought they were going to have a little fun, So they took Eleanor down to the arena at the back of the farm, which is a little bit of a walk down, and they thought they were going to put her through her tricks. And they opened the arena, preparing for this, just this little fun, while not noticing that the tiger, Satan, the larger of the two Bengal tigers, they were eating, and when eating they were separated, and Jeannie was in the cage, and then the chute going to the arena was where Satan was lurking with his food, and the safety door was not locked or not caught. So seeing a little bit of a larger piece of meat,
really big lunch.
he jumped her, and she was slashed pretty much from here down to her front.
Poor donkey.
Then they had called my father, who asked for some bullets, blanks. He wanted blanks, and I know my mother gave him the wrong bullets for the wrong gun. But anyway, the donkey kicked Satan. She had a problem with her hind legs. She had what they called string halt in those days. I didn't check that to know how that is, but her legs would lift quite high. She kicked him and dazed him, and they ran in. My father ran in and sewed her very. Actually, she always wore the scars. She wasn't sewed professionally by a veterinarian. They just tried to sew her quickly at that time, and she lived to tell the story. Yes, she did.
Wow.
And he was a big tiger too. He was pretty dangerous.
Now, where did all these animals come from?
Well, this is it, and just even in reviewing for this to tell you, they came from other zoos, and I even reread that Dan Harkins, who was the curator of the Franklin Park Zoo, even came to help us with the animals. And after the war news and so forth, we gave some of the animals back to the Franklin Park Zoo.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. When you closed down, what happened to the animals?
Well, we had quite a hay bill, although farmers and people hayed around for us, and we did some haying there. We needed a lot of grain and hay, and so we gave the jewel to the Parker people of Danvers, who provided hay and grain. We thought, who else can afford to raise or keep an elephant? And then we sold her to a circus, and then the proceeds went to the Parkers to pay off their bill. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not like you can give away a kitty if you have extras.
No.
With an elephant, it's a little bit different.
No.
You also had a zebus. A zebra? Did you have a zebra?
Yeah, we did. It was actually a hybrid, so it wasn't. The lines, the markings weren't clearly defined because it had been bred with a pony, or a horse.
Okay.
And we have a zebra. He was named Deacon. We also had two zebus.
Zebus. Okay.
Zebus. Which are the sacred cow of India. They're Brahma. They're gray, and they have rather large. They have a hump, and they have a large front.
chest.
Yes, they're quite large. And that was, you see, any publicity which could be free was nice too. And really, the newspapers really did a wonderful job making some good comments on this. And the zebus escaped one night as they were moving them into their winter quarters, because they're also pretty I guess pretty adept at having high climates and some cold temperatures too, but they were being transferred that night. I do remember that. I remember the excitement about the whole thing, and they did somehow evade their captors and got loose, and they did disappear for some time, and somehow the news did come out, and the newspaper article said that residents of Georgetown, all 2,000 of us at that time, were pretty much cloistered in our homes, to just make sure we were safe. And the story, one of the stories went that after a lot of searching, even into the woods, one of the workers decided to lean against, just rest a little bit, and he was leaning against the zebu. Now, I don't know that that's true, but they were gray. They were rock gray anyway. And the story went on, and I just reviewed that, that unfortunately the next day was church day and there weren't so many people in church. They were still worried about the because they had heard
zebus on the loose.
Yeah, and they had heard that some leopards and lions had escaped also, which did not happen.
Okay.
No.
Now I used to live on Pond Street here in
Oh,
Georgetown
you
for a
were?
long time, and it was very common to
Street.
find a cow walking down the street or somebody's horse walking down the street.
right.
You'd have to call up and figure out who it belonged to, but I think it would be really tough to have an elephant or a zebu or a lion and go through that. You had panthers? Did you just say leopards?
We had a leopard. We had 2 lions, and then the tigers did tricks with Ricky, who was a trainer and who didn't marry.
With the chairs and the whips and all that type of thing?
Yes, he did, and I don't know if they went through fire, but the ring of fire. But they had some very good performances, and I think the exciting thing is that we had a bear, a trained bear, a black bear, which my father did train. Let's see, we had.
And what kind of tricks would the bear do?
The bear, well, they do like soda pop. I don't like to actually advertise that, but they do like the soft drinks, and so. They were somehow treated with soda pop.
Okay.
And they would. He did a slide. He went down the slide, and Pete the bear, and he was quite. I think he wasn't really on. He didn't pedal the bicycle, but he rode on it, and had some really some interesting antics. He really did.
Wow.
I was thinking, I was going to tell you that the second elephant was Yasso, and she was purchased later from the Warren Buck family. And also Frank Buck, Bring Him Back Alive, was on the scene for some of the events too, actually. Okay. And Frank Buck had sold us Yasso. She did not have tusks. I'm not sure how they had been removed, but she did not have tusks, but she did something famous which was called a head carry. And in that trick, a man, particularly the same man who took Jewel down to the restaurant, also would put his head inside her mouth, and he'd lift his feet, and she would carry him. Now, I've seen the leg carry done in the circuses, but I haven't seen the head carry. Mm-hmm. So somebody was saying she wasn't sure about the elephant's breath, how that would. I think my daughter was saying that, how that would be. But that was one trick. And then my mother had a trick with her. It was called the cover-up, where the elephant just comes down on the body of the person underneath, and doesn't put any pressure of her body on it. However, the elephant would get a little frightened and sometimes have to wet, so there were some occupational hazards.
I can imagine.
But those were some of the tricks.
It must have been just a wonderful life for a child to grow up there.
It was, and I have
Did you have brothers or sisters?
I was going to say, I lost my sister just this summer. I'm so sorry, because I sort of doing this like a tribute to her. She was born that second summer, which was 1942, the last summer. And I know my mother said it was so encouraging to have the baby, and I was very anxious to have a sister. People had said, "Aren't you spoiled?" They were using the word spoiled. And she told that just as our mother was expecting, when her mother was expecting her, she was telling children, her friends, "Well, yes, I did ride the elephant, and I had a bonnet on." But we reviewed the stories so many times that she was very much a part of the farm too, although she was very tiny at that time.
Yeah. This has just been so much fun.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate it. This was wonderful.
Beverly, and I thank you, and I can't believe you
very much
for all. And I'm hoping if there are any townspeople who will remember some of the antics that went on, please let me know.
Oh, I have a feeling I'll be getting phone calls.
Oh, I thank you very much.
That would be fun too.
And the Historical Society sounds just great.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you've heard of any of the stories, or you have any pictures, or remember the farm, please let me know. I'm Beverly Enos. This is Spotlight Georgetown. Don't forget, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Bye for now.
Thank you.